God is about to change everything. Trust what comes next. There are moments in life when you can feel that something is changing. Even before you can explain what it is, something feels different. The things that used to satisfy you no longer satisfy you. The places where you once felt comfortable suddenly feel uncomfortable. Certain relationships begin to change. Certain opportunities disappear. Doors that you desperately wanted to open remain closed. And you start asking yourself, what is happening to my life? Maybe you have been praying for change, but when change actually begins, it doesn't look anything like you expected. You thought change would feel exciting. Instead, it feels uncertain. You thought God would give you something new. Instead, it feels like He is taking things away. You thought the next chapter would begin with a clear answer. Instead, you are standing in a season full of questions. But what if the uncertainty you are experiencing is not the end of your story? What if God is preparing you for something you cannot see yet? What if some of the things happening right now are not destroying your future, but preparing it? Sometimes God changes your life by changing your circumstances. But sometimes He changes your life by changing you first. And that process can feel uncomfortable. Because when you have spent years becoming familiar with one version of your life, even a better future can feel frightening when it requires you to leave the familiar behind. You may not understand what is happening right now. You may not know where the next opportunity is coming from. You may not know how the situation will work out. You may not know why the answer has taken so long. But you do not need to know everything. You only need enough faith to take the next step. Point 1. Stop trying to control what God is changing. One of the hardest lessons in life is learning that not everything is yours to control. You can control your effort. You can control your attitude. You can control your choices. You can control whether you keep moving forward. But you cannot control every outcome. You cannot force someone to stay. You cannot force a door to open. You cannot force the right opportunity to arrive on your preferred schedule. You cannot force another person to understand your heart. And you cannot force life to follow the plan you created in your head. Sometimes, the more desperately you try to control everything, the more exhausted you become. You spend your days replaying conversations. You imagine every possible outcome. You worry about what might happen tomorrow. You keep asking, what if this goes wrong? What if I lose this? What if things don't work out? What if I make the wrong decision? And suddenly you are spending so much energy trying to predict the future that you forget to live in the present. But faith asks a different question. Instead of asking, how can I control everything? Ask, what is the next right thing I can do? That question brings you back to the present. Maybe your job right now is simply to keep preparing. Maybe your job is to become more disciplined. Maybe your job is to learn something new. Maybe your job is to heal from something that has been holding you back. Maybe your job is to stop chasing what God is asking you to release. Maybe your job is simply to remain patient. You don't have to have the entire map. You just need the courage to take the next step. Because sometimes the reason you cannot see the whole road is because you are not supposed to. God may reveal the next step only after you take the current one. Think about how often you have wanted an answer before you were willing to move. You wanted certainty. You wanted guarantees. You wanted to know exactly what would happen. But life rarely gives you that kind of certainty. Sometimes you have to move with faith. Sometimes you have to say, I don't know exactly where this is going, but I know I cannot stay where I am forever. So stop demanding certainty before you move. Do what you can. Give your best. Pray, trust, and allow God to handle what is beyond your control. Because there is freedom in realizing that you are responsible for obedience, effort, and character. You are not responsible for controlling the entire future. Let God be God. You do your part, and trust Him with the part you cannot see. Puffy 2. What you're losing may be making room for better. Sometimes we assume that losing something automatically means our life is getting worse. But not every loss is punishment. Some losses are preparation. Some endings are protection. Some closed doors are redirection. And some things leave your life because they were never meant to follow you into your next chapter. You may be holding on to something simply because you remember how good it felt in the past. But your past is not automatically your future. There are seasons where God asked you to release something you thought you needed: a relationship, an opportunity, a dream, a plan, a habit, a certain environment, or even an old version of yourself. And the hardest part is that you may not understand why. You may look at what is disappearing and think, "God, why are you taking this away?" But one day you may look back and realize, that thing I was begging to keep was the very thing I needed to release. Think about that. Sometimes you are praying for God to change your life while simultaneously asking Him not to change anything. You want a new chapter, but you want to keep everything from the old chapter. You want growth without discomfort. You want new opportunities without leaving old habits. You want a new destination while refusing to leave the old road. But change requires space. And sometimes God creates that space by removing what no longer belongs. Not every closed door is a tragedy. Sometimes a closed door protects you from walking into a room that was never meant for you. Sometimes rejection saves you from settling. Sometimes disappointment forces you to discover a strength you would never have developed if everything had gone according to plan. Sometimes losing something teaches you that you were stronger without it. So if something is leaving your life, don't immediately assume your story is falling apart. Pause, breathe, ask yourself, what might this be making room for? Maybe you cannot see the answer yet. That's okay. You don't need to understand the empty space immediately. You just need to stop being afraid of it. Because there are things you cannot receive while your hands are still completely occupied by what you refuse to release. Let God create space. Let God rearrange things. Let God close what needs to close. Let God remove what is keeping you from becoming who you are meant to become. You may not understand the empty space today, but one day you may understand exactly why it had to exist. By Faith 3. Trust God even when you cannot see the plan. Faith is easy when everything makes sense. It is easy to say, "I trust God," when the opportunity is obvious, the path is clear, and everything is going according to plan. But real faith is developed in uncertainty. It is developed when you don't know, when you are waiting. When you are praying and still don't have the answer. When you are doing everything you can, and the results haven't appeared yet. That is when trust becomes more than a word, it becomes a decision. You decide, "I may not understand this, but I will not allow fear to make my decisions for me." You decide, "I may not see the outcome, but I will keep doing what is right." You decide, "I don't need every answer today." Think about how often you have worried about something in the past that eventually worked itself out. At the time, you thought you couldn't handle it. You thought you needed an immediate answer. You thought everything depended on knowing exactly what would happen. And yet, somehow you made it through. You are here. You learned. You grew. You became stronger. So don't underestimate what God can do with a situation you currently cannot understand. Your limited perspective does not mean there is no plan. You see today. You see the problem. You see the delay. You see the uncertainty. But you don't see everything. You see one moment. God sees the entire journey. You see the closed door. God sees what may be waiting beyond it. You see the delay. God sees the preparation. You see the ending. God may see the beginning. That is why faith requires trust. Not because everything is easy, but because you believe that your current view is not the complete picture. There will be moments when you have to walk without having every answer. There will be moments when you have to make a decision without knowing exactly how everything will turn out. And those moments will reveal what you truly believe. Don't allow one difficult season to convince you that God has abandoned you. Don't allow one disappointment to convince you that your future is finished. Don't allow one closed door to convince you that there are no more doors. Sometimes the answer is simply not this. Sometimes the timing is not yet. And sometimes the direction is not here. But not this does not mean never. Not yet does not mean never, and not here does not mean nowhere. So keep your faith. Keep your heart open. Keep doing your part. You may not see the whole plan, but you can still trust the one who does. For P4, your waiting season is not wasted. Waiting can feel like nothing is happening. You look around and see other people moving forward. Someone gets the opportunity you wanted. Someone reaches a goal before you. Someone seems to have the relationship, career, success, or life you have been praying for, and suddenly you start asking, why not me? Why am I still waiting? When will my turn come? But comparison can make you forget something important. You are not on their timeline. Your life does not have to happen at the same speed as someone else's. Just because someone else arrived somewhere before you doesn't mean you are late. You don't know what their journey required, and they don't know what yours requires. Your chapter may simply be different. Maybe your current season is building something inside you. Patience, discipline, wisdom, character, confidence, faith, strength. Sometimes you want God to change your circumstances when God is first trying to change your capacity. Because imagine receiving the thing you have been praying for before you are ready to handle it. What happens then? You may sabotage it. You may take it for granted. You may allow fear to make you run from it. You may not recognize its value. You may not have the maturity to carry the responsibility that comes with it. So perhaps the waiting is not evidence that God has forgotten you. Perhaps the waiting is part of the preparation. Think about a seed. When you plant a seed, there is a period where nothing seems to be happening. You look at the ground and see nothing. But underneath the surface, something can be developing. And just because you cannot see growth does not mean there is no growth. Your life can be like that. You may look at your circumstances and think nothing is happening. But perhaps something is happening beneath the surface. Your mindset is changing. Your priorities are changing. Your character is developing. Your confidence is growing. Your understanding is becoming deeper. Your faith is becoming stronger. And one day, what was happening quietly may become visible. Don't waste your waiting season by constantly complaining about the destination. Use it. Read, learn, grow, build, prepare, become disciplined, become dependable. Become the kind of person who can carry the responsibility of the future you are asking for. Your waiting season can become one of the most productive seasons of your life if you stop treating it like a punishment. You don't have to rush. You don't have to compare. You don't have to prove that you are ahead of everyone else. You simply have to keep becoming, because your timing does not have to look like anyone else's timing. Trust the process. Trust the preparation. Trust the season. And when the right moment comes, you will understand why you needed everything you learned while you were waiting. P5. Prepare yourself for the life you've been praying for. There is something powerful about preparing before you see the result. If you are praying for a better life, start becoming ready for it now. If you want greater responsibility, become more responsible. If you want opportunities, develop your skills. If you want peace, learn to stop feeding unnecessary chaos. If you want to become stronger, start keeping promises to yourself. If you want a meaningful future, start making meaningful choices today. Don't just pray for the destination. Prepare for the destination. Because sometimes we say we want change, but we continue living according to the habits of our old life. We want a new chapter while repeating the same behaviors. We want different results while making the same choices. At some point, you have to decide, I am going to start becoming the person who can live the life I am asking for. That does not mean becoming perfect. It means becoming intentional. It means getting up when you said you would. Doing the work when you don't feel motivated. Learning from your mistakes instead of being defined by them. Choosing discipline over temporary comfort. Choosing faith over constant fear. Choosing progress over perfection. You don't have to become someone completely different. You have to become more aligned with the person you know you are capable of becoming. And perhaps the greatest preparation is internal. Because when your external life changes, your internal foundation needs to be strong enough to handle it. Imagine receiving everything you have been asking for, but still carrying the mindset that made you unhappy before. Would the new circumstances automatically create peace? Not necessarily. That is why inner growth matters. Your future requires more than an opportunity. It requires preparation. So prepare now. Build your character now. Build your discipline now. Build your confidence now. Build your relationship with God now. Don't wait until the opportunity arrives to become ready for it. Be ready before it arrives. Then, when the door opens, you don't have to spend your time wondering whether you are capable. You can walk through it with confidence. Not because you know everything, but because you have prepared. And perhaps this is why your current season matters so much. You are not simply waiting for your life to change. You are becoming someone who can handle the change when it comes. Parquet 6. Take the next step with faith, not fear. Eventually, you have to move. There comes a point where thinking is no longer preparation. It becomes hesitation. You have prayed. You have thought about it. You have considered every possibility. You have waited for the perfect sign. But perhaps the next step does not require perfect certainty. Perhaps it requires courage. Fear will always give you reasons to stay where you are. Fear will tell you, what if you fail? What if people judge you? What if it doesn't work? What if you regret it? What if you aren't good enough? What if everything goes wrong? But faith asks a different question. What if it does work? What if this is the beginning of something new? What if the lesson you need is on the other side of this step? What if the opportunity you've been praying for requires you to move before you feel completely ready? You don't need to know whether the next 10 years will work out. You need to decide what you can do today. Take the next step, then take another. You may be surprised how quickly your life begins to change when you stop waiting for fear to disappear. Courage is not the absence of fear. Sometimes courage is simply saying, I am afraid, but I am moving forward anyway. And that is where faith becomes powerful, because you are no longer demanding that you see everything before you begin. You are trusting God with what comes next. Maybe you have been waiting for motivation, but motivation comes and goes. What you need is commitment. Commitment says, I will keep going even when I don't feel like it. Commitment says, I will keep believing even when I don't have immediate evidence. Commitment says, I will keep working even when nobody is watching. Commitment says, I will not allow one bad day to convince me that my entire future is bad. You don't need to feel powerful every day. You don't need to feel confident every day. You don't need to feel inspired every day. You simply need to keep taking the next right step. Some days the step will be big, some days it will be small, but movement is movement. Progress is progress. And every time you choose faith over fear, you become stronger. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you become stronger. Every time you choose to keep going instead of giving up on yourself, you become stronger. Your future is built through these small decisions. So don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait until you have no fear. Don't wait until everything makes sense. Take the next step. Trust God with the step after that, and continue. Why pay ending? So if your life feels uncertain right now, don't immediately assume that something has gone wrong. Maybe something is changing. Maybe something is being removed. Maybe something is being prepared. Maybe you are becoming stronger for a chapter you cannot see yet. You may not understand why certain doors closed. You may not understand why some people walked away. You may not understand why the answer has taken longer than you expected. You may not understand why your journey looks different from everyone else's. But you don't need to understand everything today. You need to keep moving, keep believing, keep preparing, keep becoming, keep doing the next right thing. Because your current circumstances are not qualified to tell you the entire story of your future. This chapter is not the whole book. The delay is not the final answer. The closed door is not the end. The disappointment is not the end. The uncertainty is not the end. And the season you are in right now does not have to determine where you finish. Maybe you are closer than you think. Maybe the thing you have been praying for is being prepared in a way you cannot yet see. Maybe the person you are becoming is more important right now than the thing you are waiting to receive. So don't give up simply because you cannot see the result. Don't walk away simply because the road is difficult. Don't return to the past simply because the future feels uncertain. You have already survived moments you once thought you could not survive. You have already made it through days you thought would break you. You have already learned lessons you never wanted to learn. And all of those experiences have brought you here. So trust what comes next. Trust that God can work through what you cannot yet understand. Trust that your life can change in ways you never planned. Trust that a closed door can lead you toward a better one. Trust that a waiting season can prepare you for a greater responsibility. Trust that your story is not finished just because this chapter is difficult. And most importantly, trust that you do not have to see the whole road before you take the next step. Walk forward with faith, with courage, with patience, with purpose. When you feel uncertain, pray. When you feel tired, rest. When you feel afraid, remember that fear does not have to make your decisions. When you experience rejection, learn from it. When something leaves your life, ask what space it is creating. When you are waiting, prepare. When the door opens, walk through it. And when you don't know what to do next, simply do the next right thing. You don't need the entire plan. You need the next step. You don't need to know exactly how everything will happen. You need to trust that your life can still move forward. You don't need to have every answer. You need faith enough to continue. Because sometimes everything begins to change the moment you stop asking, what if everything goes wrong? And start believing, what if God is leading me somewhere better than I can currently imagine? So keep going, keep trusting, keep preparing, keep believing. Your story is still being written, and what feels like uncertainty today may one day become the very chapter you look back on and say, no, I understand why I had to go through that. You may not see it yet, but keep walking, keep the faith, take the next step, and trust what comes next.